Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Stuck in the Mud, the podcast. In this season, I'm opening up some of the bigger themes from my book, Stuck in the Mud, Stories of Hope for When You're Stuck. If you're interested in the book, it is on general release. What I say to people is, look for the yellow boots. Now, in this season, I'm interviewing a bunch of different people in a way that I hope you'll find interesting. What we've done is chosen a theme, prepared 4 questions each for each other, and then taken it in turns to open up the conversation to see where we go. I hope that you enjoy all of these conversations, and I really hope to see you soon. So hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Stuck in the Mud podcast. Today, I've got someone who's, someone who I work out with a few days a week who doesn't know that I'm there. His name's Daniel Bartlett, and he's actually the coach of the Team Body Project. I'm wearing the hoodie for the interview. Daniel, why don't you introduce yourself and kind of where you are and how we know each other?
Oh, wow. So, by the way, I love the burgundy. That's the first time I've seen the burgundy Team Body Project, not inspired by Ron Burgundy. No?
I love this one.
Great.
Yeah.
It's a great color. I haven't seen that before, actually. I'm thinking about getting one myself. Yeah, love it. No, so I'm Daniel. I'm the founder of Team Body Project. John, I think you've been working out with us for many years, and we've actually met, haven't we? Which was lovely in Reading. It was great, and we had a lovely time, and it was great to have you there. And you've always had such a wonderful, positive influence on everybody at Body Project. I think that you've been an ever present since you joined the community, and we really appreciate that about you, the energy that you give to other people, inspiring them.
So we're going to be talking a little bit about the community, which is one of the big reasons why I wanted to have you on. We're going to be talking about Team Body Project, and we're also going to be talking a bit about writing. So I'm excited to kind of see where this kind of sort of double interview is going to go. But I'm going to start with the first question, and then we'll see if we can create a little bit of flow for the listeners and something interesting. So my first question to you, mate, is that I've been on team for a few years with Team Body Project. I love the community, but I would like to ask you about those early days when there wasn't thousands of people, but it was you and Alex figuring it out. Tell me a bit about what it felt like and what your aspirations were at the beginning.
Oh, wow. That's a difficult question. I think that I always felt that it was important to reach people with a different message. So I knew that we weren't sharing, we weren't holding the same philosophy that a lot of people in the fitness industry were. We'd been running a gym, and in there we'd made some tremendous differences to people, and it was actually repeatable, which that's unusual. I think that when I say unusual, I'd been coaching for a number of years, and I'd got sporadic results with people, but I felt that we'd hit upon something that was getting predictable results. And I think that we just wanted Body Project to reach as many people as possible. I never imagined it would get to this point, because, as you know, we were always pretty much coaching everybody. We were able to, up until maybe we had a few thousand, we knew every member by name. But what's great is that the early days when we really did manage to communicate with nearly everybody personally, and people felt they knew us personally because they did, and we knew them personally, that has created a group of people that have been able to take that message and spread it to everybody while it's grown. I would be lying if I said that was the plan. It wasn't, if I spread the message to everybody at a Body Project, they're going to one day spread the message to lots of other people. That was never the idea, but it happened. And it's just tremendous to see that you pass on that. I think I think that it's fair to say we took way more time with people than we had to. Because we believed in them and we believed in what we were saying. And that's really paid itself back, because now I haven't got the time to reach everybody, but everybody still gets reached with the message, which is, humbling, amazing, magnificent.
Yeah. I think one thing that always comes through on the community is that if you took what people said as gospel, you'd think that you were in people's houses having a cup of tea, pushing them on every minute of every day. People talk about you guys like they know you kind of intimately, personally, and that makes a big difference. So I think you've definitely retained something really really special there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's great. For people to feel like we're with them, that's the goal, right? That's what we've wanted all along.
Okay, so over to you.
Over to me. Let's have a look. Okay, so actually, I'll stay on that topic because I've got a question that's around that. You're a very long-term member of the group. I got it dramatic 2012. I don't know what I was thinking there, but it was definitely maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah, 4 years. I think.
You originally came in when there was, 1,000 or so people. So what have you found to be the greatest benefit to you personally of being a part of the Body Project community? I mean, I know that you inspire a lot of people, and that's a benefit. But on a personal level for you, having others around, making comments, reading posts, what's been the biggest benefit to being part of the Body Project community, the fitness community for you?
What a question. Do you know, I think that one of the really important things for me in terms of the community is that feeling of, I want to use the word responsibility for each other. I think that there are people on the community who we never see. Perhaps that they're not really into the posting and the photos and things, and that's fine. I really respect that. But there's a group of people who are similar to me in that they like to post a photo, they like to talk, and one of the things when I'm sat and I'm at home and it's been a difficult day, or work's been difficult, or I feel dissatisfied with the day, there's this little twinge in me of, actually, I really want to see so and so, and the way that I can do that is to do a workout and to contribute to the conversation. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think for me that's a precious thing, and knowing, there's been lots of things. I know everyone's exactly the same. Lots of things have happened in all of our lives. There's a constant with movement and the need for movement and the need for community, and both those things become that there's a kind of special crescendo of that in Team Body Project. So there's never a point, I think, when I go, oh, I don't want to talk to the community, or I don't want to work out. And if there is a point when I don't want to work out, I always want to talk to the community. So that's a big, do you know what I mean? And and that's a big deal for me. So I mean, I think that's perhaps the best way to describe how I feel about that.
No, I mean, absolutely, John. That's a fabulous way of describing it. They're genuine friendships, aren't they? There are genuine friendships that are formed. The genuine desire to communicate, be social. It's obviously driven you on to find a reason to exercise in times that you haven't wanted to. That's quite significant. Is that you've actually got these people that you care about, and you want to communicate with them, and you know what your shared factor is, the common denominator, if you like. And so you want to engage in that. Oh, they've done total 10. I want to communicate with them. I want to share with them. So I'm going to do that too, because then we're coming closer together. So that's a great answer.
Yeah. And actually, that leads really nicely on to my next question to you, which is about the impact of the community on the program. So just follow me
Oh,
a
wow.
second. Okay, so just follow me a second. Here's my question to you. So you're constantly moving Team Body Project forward, obviously with Alex. Can you tell me about a time when a person or a situation within the team inspired you to either make a change to Team Body Project or to go in a direction that you just couldn't ignore?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna give any names. I think that there was more than one
Sure.
name that would be that I could assign this to. But when we started Body Project, we released a number of workouts onto YouTube.
Mm.
And there was one workout that stood out above all others, and it was cardio starter.
Oh,
And I couldn't work out why cardio starter was getting people going in so much more significantly than any other workout that we'd released. And I analyzed all of our workouts. Why is it that cardio starter's the one? Why is it? Is it because I'm more enthusiastic? Is it because of the green background? I mean, whatever. I looked at everything. And then I started noticing people's comments coming through saying, I don't like going down onto the mat. I don't like going down onto the mat. I don't like going down onto the mat. It's really helpful for me that I can stand all the time. It never occurred to me. It had never occurred to me because we live in, as much as we strive to empathy, we still live within ourselves, don't we? And because going to the mat wasn't a challenge for me, high impact was becoming a challenge for me. My knees were struggling, but I wasn't having a problem going to the mat. It wasn't occurring to me that was a problem for a lot of people. It was a struggle, and it was making them not want to work out because going up and down was difficult. And so I thought maybe the reason that's engaging so many people is they aren't having to change levels. And I was reading these comments coming through, and that was very much when we started building Real Start. I was able to say, okay, let's try and build plans, whole plans that people don't have to go down onto the mat. And wow, that plan changed everything, because now we had an enormous new, I don't know what would the word, a range of individuals that had previously found workout plans too challenging because they were hitting this moment when it's now time to go down to the mat. I don't go down to the mat, and this is making me feel uncomfortable, and I'm now no longer enjoying this plan. We eliminated that problem, and we found thousands, hundreds of thousands of people can do workout plans that are just as effective without having to go to the mat. And we have to work really hard at finding new ways to challenge that. But that is, for me, amazing. And that is the importance of listening to people, because their experience is different to yours. Never stop thinking that you have, as an expert, I didn't know something significant that millions of people knew, and I didn't know it. And I've been doing it for 20 years almost by that time. So that's exciting. That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
But it came down to listening to people.
It's funny, actually. It puts me in mind of some of the great innovations. Some of the great innovations in the world are the simple light bulb moments that change everything. And who'd have thought that not going down to the mat would have been one? That I've been wanting to ask you that question. That was probably the first one I wrote on my list. I was like, I bet that there's something that happened that transformed things. And that is that's wonderful. That's a real insight.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and I appreciate you asking it, actually, because probably I've been wanting to say that. This made a difference. So I'll go for you now.
Okay.
I think so the question I've got is, we know that exercise has got a lot of benefits with our health generally. I know you've experienced personally some wonderful physical changes. But in terms of your life, in terms of who John is, what difference has exercise, that daily ritual, if you like, of working out that I know you've kept so well, what difference has it made to your life?
That's a very significant question for me, because um, before Team Body Project, I think, I mean, it's funny, maybe there's a bit of a chicken and egg here. Was I undisciplined because I was severely overweight, or was I severely overweight because I was undisciplined? So if you follow me for a second, I mean, I was 17 stone. I was for my son, I'm only 5'8", so I held it heavy. I held it on my face, and even now, kind of, there are times when I get weight in my chin and all that sort of thing, and I don't mind that these days, because I understand more about change, and I understand more about the kind of the way my body's working and things. But there was a point where I was perfectly happy. I was 17 stone. I don't remember being unhappy. I wasn't desperately sort of depressed, but there was a significant change that I'm able to look back at, in terms of when I started to learn discipline. And I mean, I love reading. Like the kind of 7 Habits material. If anyone knows the seven Habits material, that I've been a student of 7 Habits material, but nothing transformed my life more than um, mate, listening to you during workouts, talking about discipline, talking about repetition, about slow change, not killing yourself, but being, starting a rhythm. There was a period of time you were talking about even getting up in the morning. I remember when you talked to the community a lot about that. Those things began to transform not just my body. That was me. That was my work. But learning those things transformed my work ethic, which was totally unexpected, and led to some really kind of bonkers things that I never thought I'd get into. I mean, we're gonna talk about writing in this interview. I would never have started writing without learning about discipline. And this is something. I mean, I was on an interview the other day. I was actually on a radio. Gave Team Body Project a plug, because someone asked me, like, how did you start writing? And I said, honestly, I learnt about discipline and getting up in the morning, starting the day, finding a rhythm and moving. All of that stuff started to create a movement in me that I'd never known before. So obviously there was like a physical change, a big physical change, but also a mental change, which I could never have predicted, that I think people who work out regularly and understand, a learning and understanding about healthy eating and things like that, I think there are some ridiculous, unexpected benefits to getting control of your life. It's extraordinary.
It really is. And that's so incredibly well put, John. Thank you. Because I think that I sometimes struggle to verbalize how that could happen for people. I think you've done a really good job of it there. The way I see is, you gave yourself evidence that you could take on a difficult thing, like a workout. You could do it regularly every single day. So now you've got proof, you've got evidence of John. This is John. This is what John does. So forgetting, as you said about the chicken and egg, it's always, are we changing our physiology? Are we changing our brain chemistry? Are we? Of course we are. That's happening. But also we're creating this proof. I can set myself a task that isn't necessarily always entirely pleasant, and I will do that task. That's who I am. That's what, and I think that's very powerful, a very powerful thing. We have that within us And it doesn't have to be today, I'm going to have the most perfect day and I'm going to do. No, one thing is enough to prove that you are capable. I'm just so proud that you've been able to take that and use it to write a tremendous book, that discipline, that you had the self-belief to say, I'm going to write, however you approached it, 100 words a day, 1,000 words a day, whatever it was. And you got that done.
It's a funny old thing. I mean, I've got a question for you here about Transform for Life. I love Transform for Life. I can remember the day it arrived. It was such a, holding it, and it's a big hardback, and I'm kicking myself. I was going to have it on the table here, but it's a brilliant book. What was it that drove you to write it? Why was the book important, and what kind of, what drove you to that decision?
So actually, it's probably not an answer you're going to expect. What myself and Alex and I both really believe in and care about, want for our members, is daily movement. We want them to build a relationship with their body. We want them to try to enjoy it, embrace it, respect it, honor it, all these things about the human body and moving the human body. Because as you highlighted so eloquently, we know that can make such a difference to people's life.
Yeah.
But the majority of people that find Team Body Project are looking to lose weight. And I actually wanted to stop talking about that. I've spent many years managing weight for athletes, for individuals, for myself. And yet it's not something that I am particularly interested in. I've got a lot of information in terms of how one can successfully lose weight. But the last thing that I'm concerned about on a personal level is whether you lost weight. Like, I am delighted for you, John, that you were 17 stone and now you're whatever you've arrived at and your goal weight. I'm delighted for that, but for you. But for me, I look at it and I hear what you were talking about, which is I found that discipline. I've become something that I wasn't before I moved. I've got this habit in my life. I move daily. I know that's going to stop you. How do I phrase this? Heart attacks now less likely to happen. Chronic degenerative diseases. I know that the brain chemistries. So I want that. So I wrote Transform for Life because I wanted a definitive answer to that question for people, so I could stop discussing it and talk about what we care about, which is movement, which is working out daily and celebrating that. So I was very much motivated to put a line against it and say, you want to know what we think about how you can successfully get results? It's written down there. Now let's talk about what we think is really important, which is moving and respecting and honoring your body. And that was why I wrote it, John. It's probably not what you're expecting, but that was why.
Wow, but isn't that such an insight? Because I actually really, that resonates with me. I can hear it in the community. Now you say it, I can hear it through the messaging, through the community and the videos. Refer to the book. I can think of times where you said, refer to the book, and that makes so much sense to me. You've got that information down there. Now let's get on with the heart of the matter. We've got wow. That's so insightful. Wow.
Yeah. But it's been so helpful to so many people. Okay, so I think this is going to be a hard question for you. It might be easy, but I think it's going to be hard simply because you're going to have to distill things down into one thing, which is always the hardest thing to do. So I know you're very experienced working with the youth community, shall we say. What is one thing said, done, demonstrated, however you look at it, that you found helps young people find their potential? Yeah, I know, but I like a challenging question.
One thing.
I know there's more than one, John, but I just if you just pick out one thing for me.
Do you know that? Yeah, that is quite a question. My professional life's working with young people, and one thing that I think is always something that switches young people onto their own journey is this is going to sound a little bit weird. You know the movie Wizard of Oz, where they go to meet Oz the Great and Powerful, and there's this great big booming thing, and then they look behind the curtain, and what they see is a little dude who's not very scary, and they pull that curtain back. One thing, if I talk about young people who are struggling, okay, I work with young people of all different sorts in all different areas of life. The thing that I think helps young people, if I were to be a bit more specific and say who are struggling, is to help them to see behind the curtain. Young people struggle. They struggle to see future life in a way that they can kind of get their heads around. And so peering behind the curtain and hearing from adults who will be vulnerable, who will tell them the truth about what's going on, and will help them to kind of find hope for their own situation. Sometimes I say to young people who are struggling, they're like, I'm being got at because I'm not getting out of bed early enough, or I'm getting got at because I talk back to teachers. And what I try and do is talk to young people about actually those things never really leave you. Every adult is still struggling with relationships, is still struggling with the daily challenges, and helping young people to realize that there isn't a kind of a big kind of a big moment where you're going to arrive in your life. Like in the Wizard of Oz, they arrive and they find out that it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Helping young people to see behind the curtain and realize there's no arrival point. We're all going to struggle with this forever. So start today. Helping young people to understand that when they start today with a little goal is transformative. It depends very much on what they're going through, but it's always, for me, it's always this thing of what's going on, what's troubling you, what are your expectations of this situation, what would you hope to get out of the situation you're in, how much kind of are you willing to put into it, and how can I help you? Those are kind of questions that I ask young people. But realizing their potential is very much linked for me in helping young people to understand that there's no arrival, there's no magical moment where it's all going to be okay, but that actually, the journey that you're on, it starts right now. I'm here with you. It's going to be okay. You're actually doing fine. All these kinds of things. These, I mean, they make a big difference in the lives of young people. Of course, there's lots of different things, but I hope that that's one thing that's sort of helpful.
I think that's an incredible answer, John, because actually, I think for myself, thinking back as a young person, and that what we often are as young people is we are so looking at the horizon and we think that there's something special there. There's something special over the horizon. I think this is kind of, and yet if I were to say the moment that my life changed in the broadest terms, because we always struggle, but it is that once I accepted that this is as good as it gets, like stop trying to think that there's a solution over there. There's a magical moment. There isn't.
Yeah.
And then you move into gratitude, don't you, for today? And you move into
Absolutely.
acceptance, and you move into
Yep.
these important things to say, yeah, life's hard.
Mm-hmm.
You're showing these young people life's hard for John as well. Like I'm not, you pull back the curtain of John and I'm struggling like you. You're able to show them that vulnerability. You're not projecting, because I guess young people are, all of the other kids at school are projecting, aren't they? Everybody's projecting. The teachers have to project because they have to project authority and discipline. And so to meet with you and have you projecting vulnerability and saying, I'm just like you, I can see why that is the most powerful thing, because now they're free. Now they're free of this, and now they can tune into their potential, which is there now, and they can start getting in. They're not waiting for this magical moment. So I think it's an incredible answer, actually. If I had kind of put that back in a way, I'm trying to show you why it made real sense to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's such a massive question. And I hope, I was sort of thinking, what's the best way to put this? So look, this leads perfectly to my last question to you.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I think comes across strongly about you is that you're quite the philosopher. You've got, a lot of fantastic ideas, lots of things you talk about, your Facebook posts and blogs. They're often quite in depth and show that you're well read. So I'm going to be a little bit cheeky and ask you, is there a follow-up to Transform for Life that is on your kind of heart or in your kind of sphere that you think, do you know what? If I could do another book, it would be about this.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that if there is one mild frustration I have, should we call it a mild frustration?
Yeah.
Because it's not, because I think that we have to accept we can't, there's no point in living in a pretense. If I was to write a very sophisticated, educated post that I've put my heart and soul into, that does go very deep, because I am probably that person. I am someone who reads a lot, who thinks a lot, who feels a lot, who wants to express themselves, much like all writers, and I'm sure I can include you in that. And I put that post up, and then I'll put another post up of me going, come on, right? What I know is the difference that the come on post makes seems to be far more than and so I've probably over time felt, okay, well, what is making the difference to people? Simplify your words. Don't be as, and so, and that does, I think that there's a time in the future for me to go into that philosophy more and build on those thoughts. But the time now is to realize the influence that I'm very fortunate to have. Very fortunate to have. And that's why I'm saying it's such a mild frustration. I am very lucky in that I can write something and it can make a difference to a lot of people. Like, what a lucky person I am to be able to do that. And so by convoluting that message to fulfill my own internal philosophical requirements is a little bit selfish, because in 10 years, I might not have that fortune of influence. So I have to keep an eye on what is making a difference to people and go with that. So the answer is, at the moment, my goal is to make my messages as short and effective as I can, to reach people with what people need, rather than to try and project what I need to meet other people's needs. I will write another book. I will write that when nobody's interested in anything Daniel Bartlett's got to say anymore. And that will be the time that I get to say what I really want to say in the deepest way possible. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That is not the answer I expected, but it's an answer that I accept. I mean, the question certainly wasn't to bait you for like, come on, mate, what's next? I just sense it through your writing sometimes. I'm like, there's something here that he's clearly chewing over, and this feels like half a chapter of a book. So I hear you. I mean, that's such a responsibility. And I remember, I don't know if you put it up or whether someone else on the community put it up. There was like a kind of a poll of top 10 things that you say or something, and come on was the top one. And you were like, the whole message of Team Body Project has been
Yeah, but like I said, I just feel very, very lucky, and it is a responsibility. This is the way that I look at it.
Yeah.
Is that, wow, so many people have found us and believe in our message and believe in us, and it's helping them. I want that if come on is the most digestible way for someone to take them two words that they can hold, come on, and they can internalize that, and they can project that to success. I can't make that 3,000 words. No. Because 2 words is making the difference. And I guess that there is a frustrated philosopher in me. There is, but at the same time, probably the answer was met with "come on." That is the truth, and everything else is jazz, isn't it? Yeah. It's now jazz. That's the truth. And I feel like the luckiest person on earth to be able to say "come on" and have them words get people going. Like, wow. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. That is amazing. To think. And so I said it in jest when I said that's what it's all come to. The thing that you're known for is 2 words. But actually that's very special. Yeah. And Isn't it funny? Who'd have thought that the difference between knowledge and wisdom would be 2 words? But it is, but there is a lot of wisdom in that, Daniel. And I think that's something that is actually to your credit. That you're able to discern that, okay, the community needs those words, and needs that from you, and there's a lot in that. I mean, there's a whole book behind those 2 words, because there's a lot that comes from it: the passion, the knowledge that you have, the capacity for encouraging those people. So I think that's absolutely wonderful. No, thank you, John. I think that it's. I like what you just said there. That come on, there's a lifetime behind that. There's a lifetime of struggle of saying that to myself, and I think that emotion comes across is that they are 2 words that mean a lot to me. I've said it to myself many times. I feel like a fighter inside. And when I remember that I'm a fighter, and I don't mean you have to be throwing your fists. That doesn't mean what fighter doesn't mean that you have to be. It just means that quiet. Come on. Yeah. Back yourself. Come on. It means a lot, doesn't it? When you really, and it can't, 2 words to mean something when I've had and you've just put this to me now with what you've said. When you say there's thousands of words behind that, and you say, there's a lifetime behind that. And it's, and I'm proud that 2 words actually that mean a lot to a lot of people. So I've got another tough one for you, John. I'm sorry. Mate, okay. But I know you're going to be able to answer this. But again, it's distilling it, isn't it? Because I'm sure there's 1,000 things. What was the inspiration behind your book, Stuck in the Mud? Okay. So this one, this is one that because the book only came out sort of 10 days ago or 14 days ago now. This is a question I'm being asked quite a lot, and the challenge for me is to stay authentic in the answer. But the honest truth, the honest answer to this is that in my work,
there are, and I've mentioned this before, there are adults that I work with, there are young people that I work with, there's youth workers that I help to manage or that are on my team, people who are training, volunteers and things like that. I went through a period of time where an extraordinary amount of them were struggling deeply. And what I was finding was that there were a number of important messages that I was kind of coming to, with whether it was someone who had a relational issue, someone who was struggling at work, or someone who was struggling with bereavement. There were a number of things that were happening, and I came home to Louise, my wife, and I'd say to her, it seems like no matter what you go through, there's a need for restoration. Like, that's the big thing. Like, that's the big thing. Everyone that I'm talking to, they need some restoration. They need some renewal. They need to feel like there's some hope. And there was a number of different times when I'd come home, and it was all within a few weeks. I said to Louise, "You'll never guess, I've just been talking about this one thing again, and this one thing again, and this one thing again." And this basically, it kind of bubbled up in me in a sort of, I don't know the best way to describe, like a kind of a frustration on behalf of people, not frustrated with the people in any way. I was sat and I was like, I need to write down what we're talking about. I need to write down, like if I was writing to the person I was talking to today, I need to write what they need to hear. So I started to write things about good relationships, about purpose, about identity, about humility, about peace. And I started to write these things down, almost like I was writing to the people that I've been speaking to. That was the kind of the motivation. And at first I was just really trying to organize my thoughts and organize my heart. But within a few weeks, it started to turn into something bigger than that. It was helpful for me because it helped me to organize the way I was talking to people who were struggling. But it also started to make me go, hang on a minute. I was struggling with this about 5 years ago, this exact same thing. So it's like I started with the kind of, the self-worth stuff. You are, you're a wonderful person. You're full of purpose. There's a hope for your future. There's, for me, that stuff is central. And then I would go, hang on a minute. Like in one instance, I was made redundant, and it really knocked me for six. And I had to really wrestle with what I was telling people, what I was inspiring them with, and then what I'd been going through myself. And as that stuff started to come together, it began to form into something that was a lot more honest than just saying, here's something that's important. It started to be rooted in my experience. And that's really how the whole thing came together. It was very much, I don't know, I've described it a couple of times, like my book's like a love letter to people who are struggling, people that I love who are struggling. And that was really a central thing for me.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's for you to get the information that you're seeking when you're struggling. The only place to look for it is from somebody who has struggled.
Yeah.
In the same way, there is no substitute for experience. And I think that is when you think about the blessing of a struggle, You can't in the time, but with hindsight, you realize, don't you, that struggle not only formed your character, because that's how character's formed. You can't form character when everything's plain sailing. You're just enjoying the view, the strength of character. But even more than that, that struggle gave more than the character building. It gave the opportunity to build someone else's character. And that is remarkable. And it's great to hear that it was your experiences that inspired you to help others' experiences, your struggles. And again, you need to be vulnerable to share them. You've got to be able to say, I'm not perfect. I'm not all the things you think I might be. I, John Prockter, have struggled like you. And it feels like you're, as a leader in the community, that you'd be saying, oh, I shouldn't be the leader. Look at me. But it does the exact opposite, doesn't it? It makes people look at you and say, actually, that's someone I want to follow because they've been where I've been. They go where I go. I'm on their journey, so I'm going to go with them. And you then facilitate their capacity to be leaders as they take their messages on. It's a profoundly important thing you're doing, John.
Yeah, and it's so, I mean, it's such a humbling thing because, I mean, I've been fortunate to get this thing published with a a publishing house who've put it out. One of the best things that the publisher ever said to me, because obviously, they want the book to be successful, they want me to be confident and all of that. That's fine. But one of the people who did the copy edit, I said we were getting on quite well, and I said, what do you really think of this? Because it's the first thing I've ever written. It's blowing my mind. It's going to be published. It's not very long. I'm not, it's surely it's not that helpful and stuff. And what the copy editor said to me was, she said, you've managed to strike a balance between sharing experience and not being too self-referential. It's not, there's nothing that I hate more than, oh yeah, I did, oh, that thing you just said. Yeah. I've been through that. This time when I was talking with this person, and man, it was hard, but I figured that out. So you should be able to do that too. I go to great lengths in the book to really talk about the fact that the stuff that I've been through is stuff I struggle with. It's not stuff I struggled with. It's stuff I struggle with.
Right. Good. Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's a couple of chapters on bereavement. That never leaves you. You can't say that grief has gone, that you mastered it. That's not a thing. It's the same with humility and with stress. You can't conquer this stuff. You can only walk with it and find peace along the way. And when you start to waver a bit, you're always going to need somebody else, something else, to help a bit of course correction. This stuff you walk with. And so, when I'm talking in the book about family, I'm talking about stuff that, my kids would go, yep, still struggle with that. It's not that I want to glorify the struggle, but I want to be real because the journey is long, and there is hope in every step, I think. And as I say, the main message is restoration. That's the thing I want people to hear more than anything. You are constantly in a state of renewal. Okay. That, I don't like the phrase "you deserve renewal." I don't think it's something you deserve. It is written into who you are, and that's good news. It's not something that you should need to fight for. It's written into who you are, and that is a gift. That's a gift, and it's something we need to grab hold of, recognize, walk with daily. But it's an important thing.
Yeah, and I think that's that's taught me something, actually, to think about this constant state of restoration and renewal. And as I'm thinking about that and the frustrations I have, it's a very powerful word, isn't it? Restoration. But I also think that something else you said there that really stood out to me as you're talking about that, the self-referential process. And actually, I think that we go back to that position when you find strength, you're able to find awareness and you're able to stand in someone else's position. How do they feel as I'm talking to them? And when I speak to people and I can see they're projecting strength, so they're referring to their accomplishments and all these things that we've all done when we don't, because we don't feel strong. Is I then am able to say, I understand. I get, I'm not going to judge you on this. I'm not going to, because I know what you're doing. And I don't know, but I'm going to say that I feel that maybe what's happening here is that you're projecting this because you need to right now. Right now, you need to be doing this, and therefore I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Rather than getting down on them and saying, "Oh, why are they talking about themselves? Why are they projecting their accomplishments?" And no, maybe right now they need this. Maybe right now it's important to them. Maybe they're trying to find their way forwards, and this is how. Rather than saying, why don't you stop doing that? Why don't you just say, no, we've all been there. We've all been there. We've all been in that place when we're, when I was 21 years old and I didn't have anything, but I'd somehow try and find a nice shirt. So I'd go out and everyone would think I was doing okay, not sleeping on the floor. That's okay. That's okay. And it's also important that the other side of it is that when we're not there, is that we then find that awareness to let other people have their things and not, there is nothing worse, I don't think. And so there's a difference here. I don't know if this is going to make any sense, of saying, how is it down there? As in, look at where I've got to. How are you feeling down there? Like, that's the most awful thing. And it can only be done when you have actually overcome something. And that's where I think that you've said it's really important to say, I've been through that, but now look at me. How do you feel? One day you could be like me. It's like you could be, no, what you're saying is I'm still going through that. I am still going through that. I found ways that I can somewhat conquer it. Am I right in saying this, John?
Yeah.
It's never gone. It's never disappeared. I'm still with you. We're still walking it together. Yeah. You're not aiming for me. we're in this together, right? And it ebbs and flows.
Yeah. This is a thing about restoration, I think, is really important, because restoration is slow and it's like you're kind of planing off one layer and another layer, and what you find is that the longer you go without any renewal for yourself, the more you need then, if you like, planing down again, because you get those rough edges. So often find other people, and it's exactly as you say, those, you're kind of giving out grace to other people, being able to cope with the things that are going wrong in their lives, helping them to be changed and renewed. But then you need someone behind you who's doing exactly the same thing for you, because there's it's coming back to survival point, this whole pulling back the curtain. There's no arrival point. We're just all on a journey. And so I've got to be okay. Got to be okay with the person who's struggling with something, who wants to conquer it, but I've got to expect that it's not going to be like a switch. It's not a switch. There's still going to be that moment of difficulty where, man, I keep messing up with that. Okay, but you want to change. You're doing your best. Great. Let's carry on. Pick yourself up. It's okay. Let's keep moving. I'm convinced that that's the same in every walk of life.
I think that's that's a really fabulous way of looking at it. I would imagine that a lot of people they want to see how you react when. And can I really truly trust John? What does he just abandon me when I do this, or does John still stand by me? And I'd think that we all do that a little bit. We want to test. We want to test people, don't we? We want to see, are they truly going to be by my side, or is the first fallibility going to identify how they really feel about me? I think we can relate to that. And we're all so similar, aren't we? We're all every one of us, we're made of the same stuff. If you dig deep enough, we're all made of the same stuff. And I think that's good, because I know that most people are made of really good stuff. Yeah. Whatever their experiences and perspectives, I'm always listening to think, you're made of good stuff. Whatever you've been through, there's a reason that you think the way you do. There's a reason that you are the way you are. And it's a justified reason, I'm sure. And I'm going to choose to believe that you are made of very good stuff. That's my choice. That's the choice I take. And prove me wrong, but I'm not going to feel bad about that choice. I'm going to feel good about choosing to think there's good stuff in you, because I know there is. And we're all a mix, aren't we? We've all got things that aren't so good. So I know anyone could break me down and they could find some very bad things. And that would be the case for all of them. There's not all good, but I have to try and push the good, and I have to try and see the good, and that, I know it's there in all of us. Something of the challenge of life, isn't it? Is to find our good and find the good in others.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, listen, I think this is probably the longest interview in my podcast I've ever done. And I wish that we could carry on, but we've been talking now for nearly an hour.
Oh, wow.
And I've absolutely loved talking to you. Absolutely brilliant. Let me finish this off then by Daniel. Team Body Project is a hugely successful community. There are people who I know will be listening to this who've heard me talking about Team Body Project, but how can people connect? Give us the sell for a moment as we finish off.
I will, just to make it very clear, I did this because I respect you, John, and I wanted to talk to you. I love what you're about. I love what you do. There is no part of me that came on here to be promoting Team Body Project. That it was not the purpose. It was to speak to you and listen to you and share this with you. You can go onto YouTube, Google Body Project, and you can find workouts for free. And if you love it, then, see what comes next, I suppose.
Wonderful. Well, mate, thank you so much. And similarly for me, I'm in a position at the moment where I'm promoting a book, but this was just a wonderful opportunity to talk to you. And I asked you on here because I thought, actually, this is a good opportunity. This is a timely moment where we've got something where we can connect and connect again. And as I said right at the beginning, I see you multiple times a week and think, this is a quality relationship, quality friendship that I've got with you, where we don't get to talk much, but I so value you and wish that you'd just live next door, because I reckon that would work brilliant. But
and I'll say to Team Body Project members, because I'm sure there are some people from Body Project, we'll put this on the community who are listening. I will say to them, this is a man that I respect, that I've got a lot of time for. I would really think it was a great idea to read his book, because I'm still waiting. We're in Australia. Things don't come overnight here, but I know that this book is going to be, because I know that the fiber of this man, this person, this human being, John Prockter, is fabulous. So definitely always going to be worth a read.
Oh, thank you so much. And if you are looking for it, if you do want to get the book, if you're listening to this, it's called Stuck in the Mud, Stories of Hope for When You're Stuck. I always say to people, look for the yellow boots, but you can find it on Amazon and lots of different places. But thank you so much, Daniel. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as we have. So thank you so much.